Regularly scheduled Board of Selectmen meeting for Monday, December 16th, 2024. To order, first order of business, pledge of allegiance. Joe?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we've got a few items to add to the agenda this morning. The first being purchase of a Chevy Tahoe from the Colonial Municipal Group for the fire department. I'd like to put that in as item 6A. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion as the agenda.
Yeah, second. Let me try your minds. All in favor?
Aye.
That motion carries. Next one up is an agenda. Add to the agenda an update from John Tarutis, our Economic Development Coordinator. I'd like to move that. I suggest at 7A. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second. Let me try your minds. All in favor?
Aye.
That motion carries. And lastly is add to the agenda the appointment of Mark Russo as an alternate to the Zoning Board of Appeals to fill a vacancy for a term to expire on February 28th, 2025. Is there a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Second. Let me try your minds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That motion carries. Public forum. Anyone wishing to address the board in public forum? Don't all speak at once. Let's move on to item 3, and that's the approval of minutes, the December 2nd, 2024. Is there a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Comments, questions, suggested changes? None. Hearing none. Let me try your minds. All in favor?
Aye.
That motion carries. Item 4, Finance Director, Mary Jane.
Good
Good morning.
morning. Good morning. Trying to figure out how to get my. Need to come up. Okay. Oh, you're not getting my face, but anyway. So I'd like to start with revenues this morning. We are 54.3% received at about 42% through the year, approximately where we are every year at this time. Just a couple things to note. Obviously, finance, our interest income is still coming in on track. We are over halfway there at this point. Tax collection is doing well, right where we would expect it to be, almost halfway through the year, with half of our taxes received. And the last thing I'd just like to note, Youth and Family Services, we did increase their budget this year, and based on that, we've done a pretty good job of that number. We're almost right on where we should be at this point. Don't have any other issues, except there's my video. Okay.
We're good. Any questions on revenues? Pretty self-explanatory. Thank you. Expenses.
Right. Similarly on expenses, we're about where we see ourselves each year. We're at 44% spent, and we're just 42% through the year. Like I said, right where we expected to be. A couple of things I'd like to note: the town clerk's office and registrars of voters are higher than the 42% at this point, obviously, because we had our election, early voting, all of our absentee ballots. I will note that the registrar of voters, we did apply the $10,500 grant that we received from the state. If you remember, we received that actually in last fiscal year, chose to hold that money to use at this particular election since we knew we would have higher expenses. The grant did cover all of 2024, so we were okay using it this past November. So that does include that. We did expect that budget to be over because of that, but that's where we stand at this time. I'd just like to note the library appears to be a little bit higher than where they should be, but it's a timing of the transfers that we send to the library. We have sent the majority of the funding over to them, so that's why they appear to be high, although that is not a representation of actual expenses. Public Works appears to be high as well. It's really just because we have some large encumbrances out at the moment. The fire department is actually doing very well this year. We're at 45%. Just note that replacement costs are at 53%, although that is much lower than we have seen in prior years. Operating supplies are bringing that percentage up as well. It's at 73%, but mainly due to, again, large purchase orders out against that account. And building maintenance is tracking a little bit high at 68% as well. But overall, fire department is doing trending very well this year in comparison to others. I don't know if anybody
MJ
has
on-
any questions.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes, MJ, on fire.
Yep.
Have we exhausted or we are about to exhaust any ARPA funds that supported fire department?
Yeah, December will be the last month that we apply funding to the fire department and to all the other departments that we are supplementing their payroll. So starting January, they will not be receiving those.
And just to refresh my memory of fire department, how much we are allocating monthly out of ARPA for those costs?
I don't have that in front of me, so I'm afraid
No
to
problem.
give you a number.
problem.
I'm sorry.
No problem. Okay, other questions on expenses? All right, MJ. Anybody have anything on the warrants, special fund warrants? No. Medical? MJ?
So the medical fund is trending at a deficit of $1 million so far. You'll note that our claims are extremely high this fiscal year so far. I would note that if I take out the receivable for catastrophic claims, we are 30% higher as of the end of November 2024 than we were November 2023. We are having a joint meeting on January 28th. I'm hoping you received an invite from the Board of Education. January 28th at 6 p.m. We're having a joint meeting between the Selectmen, Board of Finance, and the Board of Education to review the medical fund. Our working committee that handles the budget every year has already met, and we felt it prudent to have our consultant speak to all three boards to explain where we are today, maybe not why, but where we are at this point and moving forward for next year. So please be sure to put that on your calendar, and any questions you might have regarding the medical fund will hopefully we would try to answer at that time.
Sorry, I was in the middle of answering a text. I know about the meeting, but is it in person or Zoom?
It's both.
It's hybrid.
Okay,
Either way.
but it will, I mean, I was planning to attend in person. Yeah, okay, thanks.
All right, MJ, anything else on medical?
Nothing else to say on medical. Nope.
Pension or OPEB? Nothing. MJ, let's take a moment to talk about the American Rescue Plan and the sunsetting of the use of those funds, and where do you see what the where we're going to wind up, and are there any funds that we need to immediately or quickly distribute because they will be clawed back if we do not do so, or have we gone through the ARPA allocation and we're still with some of the interest income that was earned on some of that on those funds?
So we have over allocated the amount of our award for ARPA, which includes the interest that we received on that money. The reason we've done that is just in case there's a purchase order out there that comes in under expenditure that we will still have the full amount of our ARPA award allocated, not have to give any funding back. We have a couple larger items that we're still working on. Darlene is working closely with the library and with Kevin McGee. We have the as I believe it's on your agenda today, the award for the library carpeting. That is a large amount coming out of the ARPA funds, and also the tree planting project through Kevin McGee's office. Those are the two main outstanding projects that we are looking to put purchase orders out for. Everything else we have is very small, everything allocated already, or if not, Darlene and I are making sure that we do so. It's a lot of small dollars, but I'm confident at that point that we should not have any give back on the ARPA funds.
Any questions or any comments on that? MJ, thank you for the update on that.
Welcome.
Hearing nothing, nothing else? Good?
Yeah.
We're good on finance? Great. All right.
Thank you.
MJ, thanks. I'll see you. I suspect there'll be some more questions this evening at Board of Finance meeting. But...
Yeah, I'm expecting to be there this evening on video as well.
Good. All right, thank you. All right, item 5, Board of Education Director of Operations and Facilities, Cliff Gurnham, 5.1. Consider and take possible action to purchase an Ultimax 1900 orbital scrubber under Omnia contract number R211201 for 595 New England Road. Cliff?
Good morning.
Good morning.
So as we're winding down here with the project at 595, we're looking at buying some equipment so we can maintain the space appropriately. So we brought this forward to the Standing Building Committee to purchase an auto scrubber. An auto scrubber is a large battery powered machine that basically puts water down, scrubs the floor, and then sucks it back up. So this would help us keep the hallways and kitchen area and areas of that nature clean. So we're looking at purchasing this through the Omnia contract in the amount of $9,275.65.
Cliff, does this piece of equipment have any use other than at 595?
We could use it in other schools if we need it. We try not to transport this type of equipment too often because they often get damaged getting moved from one facility to another. Mainly because you're driving it up and down on a trailer, loading and unloading it. They don't take kindly to a lot of that. So we normally have one piece per building, and then that is used throughout that building. So not only will it be able to be used on the upper level where the offices are, but it will also be used on the lower level where the fitness center is. So it will serve dual purpose. It does fit in the elevator, so it will help keep both areas much cleaner and presentable.
Is this a machine where someone actually sits on it and rides it, or is it a walk behind, or is it now computerized and does it on its own like
Stop and shop.
Yeah.
This is a walk behind, so it's a little less expensive than the chariot style ride-ons, which are a stand-on machine. They're also much more less expensive than a sit-down machine, and 10 times less expensive than the robot machines. So, so it's the least of the most evils.
I have a question. So Cliff, you say you have about 50,000 left on the bond.
Yes.
But I did read in the Standing Building Committee minutes that there's a potential problem with the HVAC on that building. Do you think it might be prudent to save this $10,000 just in case?
I think we'll have enough under contingency on top of this 50,000. So we have this 50,000 left that's not even listed under the contingency. I believe we still have probably about another 75,000 in contingencies on top of this. So we have more than enough funding. If we have to replace the air handler unit, we are looking at different options right now, possibly keeping that air handling unit and adding some additional supply air systems to that building itself. So we're looking at different options right now. So, yep.
So you don't think you're going to have to come back?
No, no.
Okay, all right. I just want to make one more plug, and I apologize, Cliff, but you happen to be here. When
Yep.
we're asked to approve a purchase, and the reason is that things will be more efficient. I think for us, and more so for the Board of Finance, that translates to how does that affect the taxpayers? You know, and if it's more efficient and in the big picture, that means that we're maybe reducing our staffing, then that makes sense. But if it's making, you know, saving a little bit of time for the person who has that shift, so they don't have to work as hard or they don't have to work as fast, I don't think that that's the right cost benefit analysis.
So just to give you a scenario, right? You know, you have one person that works 4 hours and he's cleaning 15,000 square feet plus a night. So more like almost 20,000 square feet in 4 hours. This guy will not have time to be sitting down and enjoying, you know, a long coffee break or a dinner. That's why we're getting this piece of equipment, is to ensure that he can get through the entire building within his 4-hour shift. So
right now, we don't have the staffing to clean it appropriately the old way with a mop and a bucket.
no, it would take,
Okay.
what
Gotcha.
happens
Okay.
is it wouldn't get cleaned on a regular
Okay.
basis. Yep.
All right, got it, thank you.
Thank you. Apropos of the question on the HVAC there, Cliff, I did follow up and he'll be sending to you a little later today the article about the state allocating more money for school HVAC stuff. So I'll forward that along to you. We had a meeting last week and we were talking about the HVAC issue, which will on another school and the cost related to that. And I thought I had recalled reading an article that the state had allocated more money and nobody is going after it. So maybe we could be the first in line. But I'll share that with you a little later today.
That'd be great.
Cliff, I have a couple questions about this thing too. Variation on what Sue asked, but where was the last location that we bought one of these or something similar?
Majority of the time we purchase these with the large renovations. So we did the entire carpet at Cox as a replacement project about 2 years ago, I think it is now. And we brought a ride-on, which they call chariot style. So it's actually a stand-up machine that will sweep that entire school, so that because it's so open, we bought that piece of equipment to maintain the carpet within that school. So as we go back project to project, again, we did a floor replacement project at Baldwin Middle School, where we did all the hallways, most of the classrooms in those areas. And we bought a large sit-on machine at that school because of the square footage, because you're about 100,000 square feet. And you've got 3 guys doing 100,000 square feet in one night. So the equipment really helps us maintain the school in a healthy standard, but allows us to clean the whole thing on a nightly basis too. So it really helps.
Okay, so so as you described, you're tailoring the size of the equipment for the size of the space. This is the smallest practical piece for this location.
Correct. Absolutely. Yep.
All right, fair enough. Thank you.
Anything further?
Appreciate
All
it.
right, is there a motion to approve?
I'll make the motion,
Yeah, second.
since I was so grouchy.
Grouchy. You were inquisitive as usual.
I'll second.
I know, we're gonna say as usual, but then it would sound like we were saying as usual. That's not the case. You ask very good questions. You seconded, right?
Yeah.
Okay, let me try your minds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that motion carries. Cliff, thanks, and more to follow on the other HVAC stuff. Pete and I should have some opportunity to speak today. We'll try to figure out when we can get together with you on that.
Very good. I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. You got it. Okay. Item 6, Library Director Rob McCool. Rob, are you online?
Can you hear me?
I can hear
Yes.
you.
Okay, sorry, I'm on a train. I'm having a little technical issue, but basically, all I'm trying to do is announce that the carpet project, which has already been funded, decided to go with BCI, who is under state contract, and basically the funding is fine. It's just really splitting it up so that it's the least amount of inconvenience for the library services. But other than that, it seems pretty straightforward.
Okay. Any questions? Rep.
I'll just say that Bartholomew Contract Interiors BCI did a lot of work in the renovation of the library, and we were very satisfied with their work, and I think Rob continues to use them occasionally as needed.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. I think there were what, 5 of them or 4 of them?
Yeah.
4 or 5. All right. Is there a motion to approve entering into the contract with Bartholomew BCI, Bartholomew Contract Interiors for the 5 separate projects as Rob described, which will allow for continued operation and won't be shutting down the whole building at once. So, is there a motion?
So
A second.
I'll second.
Comments or questions? Hearing none, let me try mine. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Rob, thank you and good luck.
Thank you very much.
Travels wherever you're headed to, so.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay. Item 6A, which is added to the agenda. And that is for the purchase of, hold on a second, get to my notes here. For the fire department, Chevy Tahoe from the Colonial Municipal Group. Chief Shove, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you? Mobile computing too. Here we go.
It's a mobile day.
Trains, planes, and hopefully nobody's on a plane this morning, but
drunk.
trains, planes, and automobiles. John Candy movie. That was a star. Anyway, Mike, you want to just give us a rundown on this?
Yep, this is on capital budget this year. It's replacing a 2006 Expedition. So that vehicle has 18 years on it. It's one of our staff vehicles, and actually that has since within the last couple of months, it's been brought down to Dave to come off the road. It had good amount of frame rot, and it was pretty much end of service life. So that's so that's replacing the 2006 Expedition.
Okay. What are we gonna do with the 2006 Expedition? Is that get reused for some purpose or?
No, it's yeah, it went down to Dave to be disposed of through the auction process that they use.
Right, and we can use those funds to offset some of these some of the purchase price. Right.
Yep.
Great.
We're gonna get a lot for an 18-year vehicle with.
You'd be
Right.
surprised. You'd be surprised. You'd be surprised.
Okay, I'll be pleasantly surprised.
And will you strip out all the equipment on that?
So yes, yep. There'll be some, but not all of it will be repurposed because that console, they're going to need a new console and new lighting. But some of the radio equipment's been stripped out, but the vehicle's been completely stripped.
Great, thank you. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion, but I got a couple questions.
And a second. Go ahead.
We may have the same one.
I think so.
Mike, this is impressive that they have an immediate availability fee. I mean, the world is a different place from the 1970s. I kind of get it.
Yeah, it's a hot commodity. Vehicles in general right now, and even the wait list for 25 there's not vehicles are still very competitive in general. But this is one of those. It became available. It wasn't even available until within the last month. So,
I mean, it otherwise struck me as a reasonable price for a vehicle this size and capability. That's just an amazing line item.
Well, and I'm wondering too, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, take it.
I assume this is off the state contract or something like that.
PCC consortium purchasing.
Okay, they're permitted to do that on the state contract? That seems kind of surprising. Seems contradictory to the whole idea of us having somebody we can go to and instead of having bids. It's surprising.
Correct. It's part of the consortium, and Darlene might be able to explain more. Darlene spoke with them. We reached out to them, and she explained the whole purchasing process through the consortium purchase.
So we've specifically looked at whether that $1,250 fee on top of the $50,000 vehicle is permitted.
Not sure.
More to the point, unavoidable.
Yeah, non-negotiable or something. It's very.
We could follow back up with that too. I could reach back out to Darlene and have her make a phone call and ask that
And a variation on Matt's question, and thank you, that would be appreciated, thank you. A variation on Matt's question, so how much, I presume we'll get a quote for what it needs to be fitted out, all the equipment that needs to go in, that's a separate purchase?
Correct. That's separate. That's separate because until we actually lock the vehicle in, even like if we miss an opportunity with this, we're on to 25, which won't be manufactured till January, February. We wouldn't see it till about May or June of next year. The 25 model is a newer model, so every time they make a new model change, they have to upfit the Havas consoles and the equipment to go inside of it. So once the vehicle is secured, then we can move to the next steps based on the year, make, and model of the vehicle.
And I wonder if this vehicle immediate availability fee is sort of like a reservation of rights that you can hold on to a piece of stock that's ready to go.
That's I think why they put the VIN number in there, because they have to attach a VIN to it to say that it's immediately available.
Got it.
It's, like I said, right now it's very competitive still for vehicles.
Yeah, just-in-time inventory.
Okay,
Right.
working to change that,
Exactly.
or at least soften it a little.
All right. Anything further? Darlene we'll get back to what if anything can be done on it. And I'm fairly comfortable that this is something that's probably been vetted by the state. The state's probably paying the same fee when they get their contract with them. So. But we'll look into it.
Thank you.
All right. Anything further? Let me try your minds. All in favor?
Aye.
That motion carries. Mike, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Now we're on to item 7. Received recommendations from the Elderly Tax Relief Committee. And before we move on, I want to thank Bob and Lou for their work on this, but also the other board members and Becky and the staff to the endeavor. We just proved that government doesn't always have to work at a glacial pace.
Speedy.
This was an aggressive timeline on a complex issue. So Bob, thank you for steering the ship and coming up with the recommendation. Would you like to?
Sure.
We'll work a little bit.
Yeah.
That was work as close to it as some of the rest of us were.
Come on up. Let's go.
TV time. I know she will. By the way, Bob and I are going to be competing for Santa Claus lookalike a little later this week.
I had found that yo-ho-ho is much more profitable than ho-ho-ho. This is one thing I left off. Ho-ho-ho, you get cookies and yo-ho-ho.
Just a bowl. I'm glad to get that.
There you go. We were requested by a committee assembled by Selectmen Hoyt to have a look at the elderly tax relief program because it looked like we were bumping up against the limit and more appeals were coming in. The program hadn't been reviewed since 2008. At the time, the income levels put in were based on household income, 2008. The goalposts haven't moved since then. There are 587 applicants in the program, which includes 2/3 single and the rest, a third are couples, meaning there are over 700 people in the program. That's over 10% of our population over 65. We went all over the place looking for an equitable and in fact more progressive way to approach this, because at the moment the way that the income is counted is to look at all the income that is available to the recipient. We looking at the taxable portion of Social Security, which is more progressive, but then we found that was when we surveyed this group, the existing group, it was the gap was too big. In the end, that was actually the suggestion of Lou Federici that we just look at a stock rise across the board And we did the math based on that. It was actually inspired by the first group of 2021, looking at the burn rate, if you will. So what we can't do is we can't quite, we can come up with a rough idea based on census numbers and CCM numbers. We have a rough idea of who makes what age group in the town, but the margin for error is so large that we just can't. We just can't rely on it. What we do know, though, is that we will know what will happen to to the amount that is allocated from the budget and shouldered by the taxpayers based on the number of people who participate. In the end, we started at kind of a 10% rise across all the income bands, and I've handed out, I didn't include in the original memo, just so you know where they are. A 10% rise, and then we, not knowing exactly how many people would show up and what the, so we've decided to graduate this over 2 years to see where we stand after year one, maybe after year two. This is a really big feast. There's no reason why we can't keep working on this. I'll point out to the committee that everything that we tried, whether it was deferment or a two-stage program or grandfather of one group, treating a new group slightly differently, fell afoul of what were perceived to be the rules. It wouldn't any longer be a freeze program. And then, of course, we crossed the line of equal treatment. So we were kind of, if you will, we're very committed to the original plan. So if you, we found that if we just raised, and the income bands in front of you, we just raise people, it doesn't matter practically what band we raise it to. We're looking at the number of people who enter the program. So based on some estimates or measures of averages and so forth, we look over the last 20 odd years, the average mill rate increase has been 26.5. We assumed a mill rate of about a little higher than that to see what the burn would be if we raised the cap by $100,000. It would take, if we have 5% more people come into the program, it would take 7 years to burn through that accumulated benefit and so forth. And there's probably more statistics here than you can shake a stick at, but it's a fabulous portrayal of where Guilford stands on many levels. That's roughly it. So we recommend a 5% cap in the first year. The only changes we might make based on Assessor Rebecca's recommendations that the income definition would be according to the Office of Public Management, OPM, and which is what we've been doing. So we should just codify that, throw that in. And there we stand.
The changes to the appeal process.
Yep, and the change to the process would be, and the language would be to include it the same way.
Yeah.
Indeed. Right. So the
We don't have any of the, the only paperwork we got was.
Oh, I sent you the memo. Did I not go to everybody?
No,
I thought it went out to everyone.
Sorry. I sent it to.
so that's why it's I'm a little.
All right, beg your pardon.
lost.
Look at my copies.
Yeah. Sorry, I thought it might be just.
And this chart's a little confusing too.
Yeah, I'm a little, I mean, I understand what we're doing, but I'm a little
Right.
confused.
No, okay, so while you're waiting for the black and white, the other two features that we inserted were to relieve the burden and to make common sense appeals. People who are run over the limit for particular reasons get a one-time no excuse appeal approval on the first go, in the first year. If this happens a second time, then the benefit would be reduced to an average of the previous 5 years. So typically people are, the average benefit is $180 something a year. And if you took 5 years at $100 to $200 or whatever, the benefit would fall from whatever it is to $200. And third time, 3 strikes you're out. There's no more appeal.
So on a case-by-case basis, when somebody appeals, that
Yep.
math would be done. And so it would take it out of our hands, making exceptions and
Right.
looking at tax returns
Right.
and trying to.
Is there any dollar limit on that one-time exception? Or exception?
Well,
No.
no. So once you cross
If
the line,
somebody
you're,
comes in at double the limit at one time, it's okay?
it's so rare.
Are we gonna get involved in that now or not?
No, it's gonna be, the intention is to codify this in the ordinance so that is the process the board of selectmen follow.
It's going to act a great deal. It's going to be much like always, operationally, it's been very much like it's been going. It's just that there are a couple of things that'll change, that will reduce the burden at the selectmen level.
So just to repeat, someone goes over.
Yep.
$1 or $100,000, the first time, they're gonna get it.
For
They're still gonna be able to be eligible.
Right.
And we're not gonna hear anything about it ever. It's just gonna be handled within the office.
That's the plan.
Just wanted,
That's the plan. Right, the people who tend to go over by large amounts, it's clearly a one-time thing. They've had to sell something or they're coming to inheritance, or it is really a one-off. And the next year, if they revert to the income that they've been living on, but then they've lost their benefit, they have to come up with $2,000 more a year. They get thrown on the program, that's an issue. The second year, however, they're pretty much brought back to your square one almost. And then the third year they're out. So it's based on based on the information given to us by Rebecca, we know that there's very little of that goes on. And there's in every program, there's always going to be outliers. So it's, we do not get the sense that people are gaming the system. We look at every aspect of this. One benefit of this process has been at the assessor level and the tax collector level, where we found, the first thing we did was we went to them both and said, whatever we decide, we don't want to make life more complicated for you. And that's when we kind of started blowing furniture. So, it has been off because it's been wrapped into other benefit programs in town. This program doesn't matter. This doesn't depend on annual calculation of mill rate or assessment. The other programs do. So in order for the veterans' benefits to be distributed equitably or fairly, you had to do, and people who are on both programs, you had to look at this and then go back and recalculate. So you were doing 500 odd individual calculations every year. So we've looked to see why this would have been done. There's no reason why they were ever combined. There's nothing in the charter. There's nothing in the rules. Nothing in the original plan. We don't actually know. We can assume we know why, but we backed that out, which has saved an awful lot of work at the assessor level, which also has afforded more accuracy in distribution of the veterans benefit, and the disability benefits. It's also lightened a lot of the tax collector's office. And I'm sorry this wasn't distributed.
I think the thinking is that the two programs were combined by a previous assessor, some perceived operational need, but there was nothing in the rules, as Bob said,
Right.
that made it, and it turns out to be much more complicated because it requires different calculations literally for every person.
Oh, and our vendor too. It's on us. You're the only town in Connecticut that puts us through these hoops. We cannot. We've been working on this for 20 years without a solution. So they said. So that's coming out too, which puts us more in line with other programs. Right. So I've probably overcomplicated the explanation, but there we are.
No, that's
No,
good. I
it's
have
well
two things to add, Bob. Thank you so much.
Oh,
Chairing the
it was very
committee
good.
everything went smooth. The meetings were great. Really good. The health exemption will remain in effect, so we may still get some appeals based on that. Medical, excuse me.
No, you shouldn't even see that.
Okay,
If they do that, they would do that to our office.
so that won't even need to come to us. That's not.
It's got its own carve out.
Yeah, that remains in effect, which was
Yep.
here. And just, I want to kind of touch on this helpful form that we kicked around whether we would do just a one-time 10% bump or 2 5% bumps. And with the fact that it does fall to us to not grant the second 5% bump in this proposal.
Correct.
Us being the Board of Selectmen, if so many people jump in at 5%, we say, oh, okay, that's a pretty good number. We're happy.
Yeah.
This is gonna work. We can then revisit this next December and say, okay, we don't need the second 5%. This is now apparently the right size and strike it out. The default position is the 5 kicks in 2026. That's why it's actually, if the 5% plus 5% is a slightly bigger number.
It's quarter percent higher.
Higher, yeah.
We
This
did
is what happens when you bring
Compounding?
you bring the accountants on board.
We said 5% and then 5%, and I walked out of the room thinking, On what, 5% on
It's a
what?
tiny bit more.
Yeah.
So
it's a
that's
few-
why those
it's a
numbers.
few dollars more, so it's up to you to figure out what you.
But it gives us some flexibility, is the point, without having to reconvene the committee.
Yeah.
I'd really like the idea of having a year's worth of data to validate the assumptions that have been made and also to adjust if necessary and leaving that open. So Pete, I know you're paying attention. That means the ordinance change is going to need to reflect that it is only 5% and that we'll have to revisit the issue next year.
Could or should the ordinance allow for periodic revisiting? Or is there any reason we couldn't do that?
The nature of the ordinance allows us to revisit whenever we want, whenever we want to. We might, and I'll let Pete make the decision on this. The ordinance could require us to relook at it every year. I'm not
Bob
sure.
says no.
Well, the application, no, why not?
I'd say-
I think the blueprint's kind of there, so it's easy to take it from here, but the application process opens February 15th.
February 1st to May 15th.
Oh, to May 15th, sorry, first. So by May 15th, you kind of know where you stand.
And I'm also wondering, I'm sure that you discussed the idea of including an asset test of some kind, but I'm wondering where that landed and I'm wondering if it was important to me, I would have said something. months
did,
ago.
yeah.
And just to mention the context, I think most of well, maybe not most, but a lot of the appeals that came to us were from people for all kinds of reasons, taking money out of their 401ks. You know, when this whole thing started decades ago, there wasn't the concept of this 401k million.
Absolutely.
You know,
Yeah, so this is an adjustment to see what happens, what happens. We did look at it's true, I don't know how they manage it, but other municipalities do look at an asset test or an evaluation of the house, the assessment test on the value of the house over a certain amount, you can't, whatever. But once again,
I don't
we kept
think they
running
have the
into-
duality that we have, where the limits, we are on the high side of the limits. Most people follow the state guidelines, so I don't think you'd have as many, the
Very true.
number, and to do an asset test
Yeah.
for everybody on that number.
Right.
I'm,
But if you think about an asset or net worth test, and you start looking at, for anybody who's ever filed an FBAR for their, not an FBAR, FAFSA for their kids going to college, all that stuff, if you look at, what's your true net worth? You've got a house, but is there a mortgage on it? Do you have this? Do you have that? Do you have this? Do you have liabilities? That would fall on the assessor to figure all that out.
No, I mean, I wouldn't look at that because it's
Yeah.
just, looking at the value of the house defeats the whole purpose of having the program, right? But liquid assets.
At the end of the day, what we kept finding out was we kept reverting back to this rule that it no longer is a freeze program. You can take people out for particular, if they cross the income level, then that's the axis. That's the amount they've chosen to live on. And if they not cross that line, then sorry.
This bullet about you're gonna take out long-term citizens and replace with Guilford residents. I
Yeah.
can't remember, I should have that application memorized in that form, but anyway. It used to be based, the longer you lived here, the better deal you got, is that correct? Or-
Yes, so that's on this.
So that's still,
It starts from years
Fine,
one.
okay.
You have a higher
and so on.
earnings threshold before
Okay.
you're
all right.
still beyond.
So that still exists, you're just
Right.
rewording it.
We got caught on whether somebody's lived here for a few months before they're eligible, how long did you have to live here before you actually applied? And in the 1 to 4 category, there are single digits, just only 4 or 5 people.
5.
And still, there was a board member that felt that they should put the language in to make it a full year of assessment. It's never been tested. But here we are.
It's also a little offensive to suggest that just because someone has lived here longer, they're more deserving or something, and someone who's newer to town.
Well, the idea is, I think in its purest form, and we hope the language still reflects this, it's a benefit to be provided to someone who has paid taxes for some period of
Right.
time, and as you hit the 20-year mark,
Right.
you get the most, but anybody below that, I mean, this is the original thinking of the original committee. And we just didn't see any reason to change that. So that's the idea why there's gradations there.
And the last thing perhaps to point out is that this is not a budget item, this is an allocation. So the taxpayers in town are paying, out of their 100% of tax they pay, less than 1% goes to support the people who are, who are living here, lived here a long time. It kind of keeps the altruistic view is that it keeps the character and the culture of the town intact, people close to their friends and family. And it also has meant, so I always often point out, the population in Guilford hasn't changed in 20 years. And it's meant that we don't encourage people, a couple to move out of a house, so 5 people move in. When people say this costs us money, you've got to ask, what would the cost of a new school
Building,
be?
exactly.
So will the application be easier for people to fill out, the same or harder?
Same.
Okay,
But your office, it'll be more clear.
Yeah.
for Your office.
Yes, it's hard in 2024 to explain why the computer system can't handle it, but it can. It took everything. I reviewed it several times prior to the bills going out. Everything looked correct and it still came out incorrectly. And then I had to figure out, my assistant and I, we went through 3 times to figure out what was wrong with the program and why it wasn't coming out correctly. So but removing the exemptions, as Bob said, makes it much easier and gives the beneficiaries of those benefits what they're entitled to, the full amount they're entitled to. So works out for everybody.
Going into this, there were a couple of points that obviously haven't been addressed, and you referred to the fact that it was, I don't call it a legacy program, but it was, a defined program which you didn't want to change philosophically. And then again, comparing it to other programs in the state, we haven't done that either at this point in time.
Oh, we have. The assessor's office went out, we had received 15 or 16 replies of all the programs in other towns. We looked at them all. Many of them look at the circuit breaker amount of money that's defined by the state, which is much lower and then certain towns will say, here's the circuit breaker level, but here's what we're giving you. And that's pretty much what Guilford does.
What about the one where we had discussed throughout the year in some of the appeals, where rather than doing all of these calculations, it was just a set amount?
Some towns do that. But if we change that again, it goes back to this legal idea.
That's the philosophical change of the
It's
program.
not so much philosophical as it is legal. And, we would rip up the program in front of people who are in the program. And even if you grandfathered everybody who's in it and you change it for new applicants coming in, it's equal treatment under the law. This becomes
But it was portrayed as being a much simpler way to do it, and that was a major overhaul. I can appreciate it,
Right.
but what the committee has done at this point in time gets us there in a baby step. Is that what I'm understanding? That this takes away some of the grief, but not going all the way.
It doesn't change the underlying, it doesn't change much of the underlying premise at all. And we just couldn't go there. From the beginning, I was always of the opinion there should be a deferral here. There should be a difference should be capitalized, and we should stand in line when the house is sold. That no longer is a free program, which is what this is. And I came into this thinking we should have a 2-speed program, grandfathering everybody, and everybody else would be deferred and capitalized. And again, I fell afoul of this rule of equal treatment. So, which would put us at risk in the courts. And it would change the character of everything. So,
So you looked at it,
Oh,
and
what
that
did we
was
look
the
at?
conclusion.
we looked at asset, we kept coming, we revisited every time.
Now, when you looked at across the state, most of them our type of program, or most of them?
No, we kind of stand out. I understand that Durham has just adopted our program. That's it.
So it's just us in Durham.
Yes. Yeah. Most people either,
And that was simply a philosophical decision because of what was program it was originally, and when we decided to address it at this point in time, I mean, it's been what, 10 years? Oh,
No,
God,
2021.
20 years, yeah.
2020 is when this first got into, the philosophy of it was established in 2020. You know, for us to, all we do is maintain it, you know, philosophically, we couldn't change it. And we can,
And the
Believe me,
logic
there were lots of
for why we couldn't change it to something that's been discussed for a number of years, and we kept saying, well, that's a major change and that type of thing. We're not making that major change at this point in time because of, we didn't want to create a two-tier system.
correct.
But then you said something about the legalese of it.
We had counsel on the board who was part of the original program who insisted that it was a non-starter for that reason.
Okay. You know, respect the time and effort you put into it, and I'm getting my head wrapped around it. It certainly was not my understanding going into it, because after the 20 years, I thought this was going to be, you know, the time to bring it into the 21st century. We're not quite there yet.
You know, I could see a day if the town was bereft, if the town was on its heels and things are going terribly wrong, then you use that as a motivator.
Well, I use it. I just want to get us in a line with what modern, you know, what's being done.
Yeah.
Generally accepted.
You could make the case that we're ahead of it, you know, at the same time.
Yeah, as long as we can still afford it. I mean, it's a generous situation. You know, budget cycles being what they were, we have been able to afford it. But it has to be recognized for what it is, especially compared throughout the state.
I can't quantify for you exactly whether other towns give more or less. They have different rules.
But the majority of towns do not do it the way we do.
Correct.
At one point, you were, I wouldn't say pushing, but telling us about it, just a $1,000 credit to people, or
Most towns do that, a credit. And it's a significantly smaller, overall amount.
And you know, what made so much sense to me when you brought that up during the appeals is it didn't matter what the assets were. It didn't matter what the value of the house was. Everybody was treated equally.
Yeah.
And that was pretty attractive to me, yeah, on the surface. But we're just not there yet.
It's what do you do with the people who are on the program as it is currently? And they would have to shift
understand
to
the grandfather thing
yeah,
is.
we can't do that. We can't have the two. They'd have to go on to some kind of a credit somehow.
so this system is still gonna be an improvement over what we're doing, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, right. And I got to go back to most of the conversations that we received from members of the public had to do with the income limit and the fact that it hadn't been adjusted for inflation forever.
Yeah.
Right. So that was a major point. And then we would devolve into, oh, how else could we change it? But most of the interactions that we had, particularly with the public, were around the income limits and the fact that they hadn't been adjusted for inflation. And if you go back to 2021, you could do the math quicker than I can.
Well, at the beginning of go all the way back to 20. I mean, the original limits, and in 2008, the limits were over a percent a quarter of the town budget, under that.
Right.
So on a percentage basis, it costs the taxpayers less than it used to. Now, at the same time, of course, what we're, you know, we haven't had to manage a growing population. We've had to manage a growing elderly population. So what the numbers are 20, well, whatever, you know, we were 12% over 65. We're now 26% over 65. Then again, there was a time when the school budget was, you know, it's in 75 when I graduated from high school, there were 14,000 people in town. There are many more, 25% more kids in the school system than that. So it just reflects a change in the demographics.
Well, That's part of my, that was part of my struggle going into this, and I understand the aversion to a two-tier system and everything, but a little bit like pulling the Band-Aid off. I mean, you know, it is going to get fixed someday, and it's inevitable because it's a time situation. But I think this is a step in the right direction. I personally find it a little bit disappointing because of all the time that I have been involved in. Every year we've talked about, you know, something's got to be done. We got to bring ourselves a lot more aligned, you know, the clawback and all of those kinds of things. And I can appreciate that while your committee, you know, examined and everything, it's a little bit disappointing for myself that we, you know, have not at this point in time been able to fix it, because there might be another 10 to 15 or 20 years before it gets looked at again, so.
Yeah, the program, the philosophy,
Dismay.
the original philosophy, the original program was subject to public referendum and passed. So I think that would, what you would need to change this. Because we're still working off the original
Yeah,
referendum.
and, you know, I understand that, and I know it would have been a much bigger lift. But it has been 20 years.
True.
You know, I thought we were at that time, and
I had my frustrations,
yeah.
but we kept running into how we're painted into a corner.
okay, and you know, that's why you had a committee look at it. And I understand you put the time and effort in, and dismayed.
We'll tell you, we had some far-ranging opinions, contributions.
It makes for a healthy discussion.
And interestingly, that topic did come up occasionally, but there was never really I do what you're saying, and I've had plenty of comments about that too, but within the committee, there wasn't a lot of momentum, just based on the fact that this has been the historical way this committee's operated, the difficulty, without repeating what Bob said, but you know, the difficulty of managing two potentially separately then benefiting groups, grandfather group.
Yeah, but that's an automatic sunset. I mean, you know, you talk about it, but it's inevitable.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what, yeah, I'm gonna say what.
Well, it's food for thought, I think, for this committee. See if we
Yeah.
can take it.
Yeah, and quite honestly, I'm not sure that we gave them enough time, and I'll take the responsibility for that. We gave them enough time to effectively look at the implications of completely sunsetting this program and adding a new one in and building a new one that would satisfy the myriad interests of a variety of people. And, you know, whether it was clawback or, you know, it wasn't a free program, or it included, and I think we talked about this, we included tiers above and beyond what we already had in place. So I think this satisfies most of what we were dealing with on a regular basis, which is input from the community that the program was outdated as it related to the income limits, which there's absolutely no question about. And secondly, I think it takes the consideration, the individual consideration for appeals out of the hands of this board, which quite honestly, I think is as important a win in this program as anything, because it's now clear cut.
Yeah.
And it's not subject to, I don't want to say win, but individual interpretation.
And breaking it from the connection of the other programs too makes it
Yes.
less complicated, so. Yeah, I can appreciate it's a step, I was just hoping.
Nothing to suggest that we can't, we do the evaluation of the impact of the 5-year
Yeah.
to do something else.
That's a great way to measure it. Yeah, this, for the moment, this satisfies the mandate, but it doesn't mean there won't be another mandate.
So do we have to get this all locked and loaded before February 1 or?
We're gonna approve it and have the ordinance changed. That'll take 30 days, but the program will be based on the new ordinance. That will be published as a new ordinance.
I have one more thing to bring up. I'm just curious if the committee discussed how this affects affordable housing or the lack of housing stock available in town. Did that come up at all? I mean, are we keeping houses from naturally turning over to new families or younger families or, you know, working people or whatever?
Well, no, because we're addressing people who live in town. And that really was the theme.
People are also living on them too.
We face challenges in what I call the housing stack. And it's all the way down. It's up and down. One of the things that I hear most about is seniors can't even sell their house, stay in town, because they can't downsize to something that is less, it's more affordable. So you're absolutely right. This program allows them to stay in their home to a degree, right? But there just is a complete shortage of housing from the affordable level to the working force level to the mid-market stuff. And the fact that the house, and we are contributing to the housing stock not turning over, so to a certain degree, but there's no place for those. The program was originally designed to allow people who have been, keep people in their homes because they had been paying taxes for a long time. And now, this is the classic argument. We don't have kids in school, yada, yada, yada. There are programs that I don't take advantage of. So this was quite honestly thought of as a reward for having been a strong contributor over so many years. So I think what we need is a motion to approve the recommendations of the task force and charge Pete with crafting changes to the ordinance as per what was outlined in our adoption of same, including the change from long-term citizens to Guilford residents, and give us the opportunity to have a public hearing on the ordinance change in early January. Pete, does that sound right?
Yes, yep.
Okay. Should we establish a date for the public hearing on the ordinance or not?
Oh, boy, I hadn't even seen this till this morning, so I don't think it's gonna take a lot of drafting, but I guess I'll have to defer to you on that. I'll try to work on this right away. Is this group, by the way, disbanded at this? Is this committee disbanded at this point, or if I put together a draft, I'd like to shoot it over them, make sure I covered everything.
It'll be fine.
Yeah.
You can send it in and we'll figure out a subcommittee.
All right.
All right.
How about when is our meeting? It's on the
January 6th.
6th. If we were to have set the public hearing on these changes for January 6th, we will have approved them, and it's just a matter of the 30 days before it's effective, and we'll make it effective with the application. The applications will carry the anticipated program parameters.
Okay,
Does that make sense?
that's fine.
Okay. Great. All right. Motion and a second to approve the recommendations.
I would be happy to make the motion.
Second.
I'll second it. I would like to, is it appropriate to name them, to acknowledge the names of the committee members in the
Yeah,
minutes? I just thought so.
Yeah.
The two gentlemen in the room.
Right.
Bob and Lou,
Mr. Bloss,
Bill Bloss,
Alan Dern.
Yeah.
Linda. Oh, heck.
Figurito.
Linda Vigorito,
Brian,
and
Brian McGlone.
Brian McGlone,
Jeff.
and Jeff Ambrosio.
Jeff Ambrosio. Special thanks actually go to Karen Werkja and Rebecca for work done in the committee and behind the scenes. Karen did an awful lot of research for us from old records that we couldn't put our hands on. It turned out to be very valuable guidance. And her minutes are sterling. So, and Becky wasn't part of the original committee, but attended every meeting, was very valuable, and had meetings off piece. So we really appreciate the guidance.
Great. Thank you, Bob. Thank you. All right, we got a motion and a second. Any further comments or questions? Hearing none, let me try your minds. All in favor? That motion carries. Thank you very much.
Pleasure.
I think what you just heard is you aren't fully discharged yet.
Yeah, that makes some sense then. We'll share it with
Yeah.
everybody once Pete comes up. If I sort of envisioned that, it'd be nice to have the final language.
I'd be anxious to see it put in play. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
you did, when did you start meeting?
Only about
What was it, Thursday?
8 weeks ago.
Jeez. Oh,
Yeah, we met twice a month. Bye-bye.
Okay, 7A. John, come on up.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, everybody. I don't come with any immediate availability fees. But I love the concept. Maybe we can incorporate that for town use. We'll see. So just a brief update on some of the business development in town. Anytime Fitness, the location next to the place and across from Big Y. Building has come down. They're starting construction very soon. New business is coming. Target continues their work. Their HVA system went in, I think, last week or so. Old Navy continues their work. TJ Maxx hasn't started work, but they do have lease at Guilford Commons. Char and Lemon, the restaurant on the corner of Water and Whitfield, continues their work sometime after New Year. They'll open. There is some buzz around the Baloo's location as well. We may see something developed there shortly. Last week we had Girls' Night Out around the green in town, and the tree lighting. The merchants looked very, very busy, and I heard a lot of positive feedback from those events. And we're working with Rex and H2O Farm on some grant proposals for them. Develop their infrastructure, new technology that they're bringing from overseas, new to the United States for fertilizer production, zero carbon footprint. So we're meeting with state reps, representatives later today. So very interesting, very heady stuff out there. So that's all I have for this morning. Questions?
Do you know anything about this? I mean, I know the safety zone is leaving or has left.
Correct. I do not know that there's anyone interested in the property. I haven't heard that.
Okay, and we had a discussion. Maybe it was an executive session. About restaurants in town.
Yes, I was on an executive session, sure. There's just one other update. Tomorrow, the land use folks will be having a site plan review with the potential developers for Village Gate West, which is the property across the street from the rock pile, DDR.
Excellent.
So that's
That
what they're
parcel in the
Village
front,
Gate
Oh,
that
West.
parcel in the front is mixed use, I think, commercial, et cetera. And then the property in the back, which is anticipated to be housing, is, I think it's separate. I think it's just for the front portion.
Front portion is mixed retail use as well. They're trying to get some zoning changes there to match what's across the street at Guilford Commons.
Yeah,
Because they thought they might have someone who's looking for a drive-through.
that's exactly.
And then also market housing and some affordable in that location. It's a big
So is
property.
the site plan, I'm sorry, I couldn't get this. It's just for the commercial part right now, or it's also including the housing?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
This is the preliminary meeting
Okay,
where the developer comes in and works with the various departments, the land use and regulatory use folks. And it's an advise and consent. They actually do not give us the site plan documents
okay,
to take with it. It's not an application. It's a consultative process that usually happens every Tuesday morning. for that building.
yeah, okay, thank you.
Right, so this way, when they get to the point of submitting the final plan, it's pretty much in order.
I have some members on the housing commission who are anxious to see this, but I can just report there's nothing to see yet. That's what I thought, but I'm just making sure.
Who is the developer? Is it someone local?
Hey,
I don't know. I don't know. Attorney Shansky is.
And Mark Shansky, who's a land use expert. Actually, she works both sides, the affordable side and regular.
Well, it's nice to know that they're thinking of including some affordable housing in the project. That's
Well,
great.
they have no choice.
Well, they have no choice unless they want to pay
Fee in lieu of.
fee in lieu. Yeah.
So, and it's 100, that was originally 106 units. The original approval, subdivision approval was 106 units of, I think it was standalone. housing.
Yeah, it was standalone original.
Right, and it was restricted, age restricted originally. The property owner came back and had that age restriction lifted,
Taken out.
right? So, at our 12% set aside, that's,
That'd be hefty.
that would give us a few units. So,
We'd rather see the units.
Is there any news on the Howard Road property?
safety zone.
No,
No.
the 100 units.
Oh, 100 units? My understanding, that's an interest rate sensitive project. Not unlike the other two housing projects on Route 1 West, which is a little further west than the DDR and Rockpile. There were two units of condominiums approved in that area, and I think combined there's something like 70 some odd units of housing between the two projects there. And then it's my understanding that is also interest rate sensitive because they were approved right around the time or just before interest rates went.
I know it was more of a health department discussion. Is there any further discussion about the septic issue in downtown, especially?
Oh, there is. We've engaged for our approval here. We've engaged the engineering firm to do the studies, the hydrology studies and the
We wanted
stormwater
to do that,
studies.
I believe.
Yes, we
Yeah,
have.
yeah.
Okay. That's
So that's
in progress.
in process.
Yeah, that will more than likely move like government typically does at a glacial pace.
Well, I know, but it's real.
No, it is.
And the idea there would be some sort of regional, local, when I say regional, I mean regional to the green.
Yeah, that is one of the eventual options, which is, and again, not to alarm people, but one of the potential options is to combine the systems, because there are like, what, 12 different, 11
Just in that lot, I think there's 12.
12 systems there, right?
Well, that's the value of government. I mean, that's where, a community can come together and do something that is positive, long range and bigger than any individual property.
And the eventual model that may emerge could look a little bit like what we did up Mulberry Point in terms of, securing state money, long-term loans.
Being the
those
facilitator for a big project that fixes a big problem.
Right. And, to be very careful about how this comes out. Creating for lack of a better term, a sewer district in that area, because that may be the only way you get everybody to the table and participate as one. It's going to be, it's rife with personal property rights stuff and who wants in and who doesn't want in. Because, my system is fine for my business, but it's those folks who are doing that is causing the problem. So that there are some challenges ahead with that, but I would look forward to the opportunity to do that. So.
Just to go back to your comment about some action around Baloo's, as someone who parks at night downtown relatively frequently, it's great, the restaurant businesses seem to be doing well, and I think to myself, Char and Lemon isn't open and Baloo's is not open, and yet in that town, the parking lot we're just talking about is often packed, and Whitfield is packed and Water is packed, and I realize that there's some parking on site for Char and Lemon and everything, but I think I've been thinking about, I think we need to re-advertise that agreement with St. George's and the little
John's all over this. He's
All
been
right.
working the merchants and berating them about not enforcing that their
Yeah.
employees park there.
because it's, anyway, okay, as long as, because I mean, we invested
in
some
their
money in
interest.
that, the church agreed, and I don't think anybody uses it much.
Barely used.
No,
Minimal use.
right, so I mean, it may be, I don't
Now-
know, I'm not
now
gonna
most
say
of the
how to do your job,
merchants-
but just so you're on it.
No, I constantly remind the green merchants to utilize that. But mind you, most of the shops close by 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
So the parking issue after that time is not their staff, but it could be restaurant staff.
Could be restaurant.
But I mean, are we able to encourage, like, somebody like me, should I just be encouraged to park there and walk over? I mean, can customers park there, or is it limited to employees of those businesses?
Actually, I'll be over there later today. Let me float that question. I don't think we've
Because
specifically
I
talked with
mean,
the church
I would
about
like to
that.
park closer personally, but there's plenty of people that if they knew it, it's not far. I mean, it's, and it's the, anyway, I don't.
And we do have a sidewalk. We built a sidewalk.
And we have
connecting
lighting, yeah. We just have to
Behind
be
here.
sure that
I think it's an information problem more than anything
Yeah.
else.
Well, it is an information problem for residents to take advantage of
Yeah.
that, because we've never promoted that.
Right.
We'll have to go back to the MOU with the archdiocese and see whether, I think it was pretty explicit that it was for,
Only employees.
yeah,
I mean,
employees.
it's private property and I'm a parishioner and I would not go park it there. I'd circle and find something else
Right.
because it's private property. So I don't know if that's accurate or not, but maybe.
We'll look to see if there's
Yeah.
language in the MOU that prohibits that, and if it doesn't, then we can, start doing the promoting that it's available.
I'll go out on a limb a little bit about patrons utilizing the lot. Yeah, I think some of the issue then comes, security, safety, slips and falls on the property, trash issues,
And the assumption that folks who may be parking there might be having some adult beverages and creating some challenges over there, but let's see what they say.
We'll see.
Not you.
No, not me. I pay for my adult beverages.
Oh, I don't think you were saying consumption on site. That would definitely not go over.
Good.
So that's,
Anything further, John? No. Thank you, sir.
all right, thank you.
All right, item 8, appointments and resignations. 8.1, act on the resignation received from Kit Wilcox from the Zoning Board of Appeals and Hazard Mitigation Committee effective January 1, 2025. Kit is moving.
To Madison.
Of all places.
I know,
Of all
but he
places.
can't
So,
vote anymore.
Is there, is there a motion to accept the resignation with appreciation and regret?
I'll make that motion.
Second,
Second,
let me try your minds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that motion carries. 8.2, act on a resignation received from Alexander Hoffman from the Human Rights Commission. I'll make that motion with appreciation and regret. Is there a second?
second.
Let me try your minds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that motion carries. Just as a note, Alexander Hoffman is on the Affordable Housing Commission. All right, he's been on the Human Rights Commission for some time, and now is going to devote most of his resources to affordable housing.
Possibly a better fit.
And, yeah,
Okay.
and he's in it. He's jumped in it. He was at the COG meeting last Thursday, I think it was, the Affordable Housing Work Group. By the way, Guilford was strongly represented. We had Ann Harshen and I were there. Kristen was there. Peter
Colburn.
Colburn, I'm sorry, and Alexander Huffman were in the room, and online, MJ Kessner, Larry Rizzolo, and John was
Great.
online as well.
That's
So,
terrific.
yeah, and the meeting was with a gentleman by the name of David Corus, who is executive director of the quasi-governmental, it's not really quasi, but it is funded by government funds of the Connecticut Redevelopment Authority, and Connecticut Municipal Redevelopment Authority, which is one of the avenues that the Lamont administration uses to get development money in for housing of all sorts into Connecticut municipalities. So David will be coming out to meet with you folks, and I'll be part of that meeting. So. All right, 7.3, act on a recommendation to appoint Joan Leonard to the Human Rights Commission to fill a vacancy for a term to expire on June 30th, 2025. Is there a motion?
So moved.
And a second? Second. Now let me try your minds. All in favor? All right, that motion carries. 8.4, act on recommendation to move Jim Goodrich from alternate to regular member on the Zoning Board of Appeals to fill a vacancy for a term to expire on February 28th, 2025, effective January 1. Is there a motion?
So moved.
And a second? I'll second it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
8.5, act on a recommendation to move Lee Sander from alternate to regular member of the Economic Development Commission for a term to expire on November 30th, 2028. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
And a second?
Second.
Let me try your minds. All in favor?
Aye.
That motion carries. All right, 8.6, act on a recommendation to appoint Mark Russo to the Guilford Zoning Board of Appeals in an alternate position. Is there a motion?
Make motion.
And a second? Second. Any further comments or questions?
Yeah, I'll comment that I
Please.
continue to be impressed at the credentials of people that are coming
Yeah.
forward to volunteer for these
I know,
positions.
it's-
Good work to the RTC.
Yeah.
This gentleman is a brigadier general.
Great.
It's very impressive.
Wonderful. Thank you for that
Excellent.
extra information.
All right, let me try your minds. All in favor?
Aye.
Carries. Thank you. Okay. Committee reports.
Just that I think I said this already, but now that we have a full commission, just missing an alternate, we have some pretty strong, committed people on the commission, and there's a lot of energy, and I have to say it's great, because it was kind of the same old 4 and 5 of us, and it's nice to have some people that are interested in going to these various resource meetings, and anyway, feeling positive.
All right. Correspondence, public works report, anything? No. Building report, anything? No. All right, letter from Margaret Point Roads Committee. I have referred that to Janice for her and Michael's interpretation, to see if there is anything that would be consistent with the waiver that we did for the previous applicant. I actually met with the gentleman who sent this along, and Brent indicated that there needed to be some rationale consistent with what had been approved before, as opposed to us just saying, no, we're going to take care of your private roads. There needed to be a rationale. So, and Pete will also have an opportunity to weigh in on that as well. So more to come on that piece. Old business. New business. Public forum. Deb.
Hi. So I just wanted to remind people, I didn't know, because I missed the beginning of the meeting, but I thought that some people might view this meeting, and I wanted to remind them of the public hearing on the ordinance banning cannabis retail sales that will be on Wednesday at 7 p.m. at the community center. And if they can't make it, there is a number for Zoom. And also, it would be great if people did have an opinion, if they wrote emails to the Board of Selectmen.
Received one, I think, yesterday.
Oh, on how they feel. And then of course, I did want to tout my opinion that I hope that we really keep in mind the quality of health of our youth. As I've stated, people can always go next door to a neighboring town. It's legal and adults are legal to smoke it. I'm reminded many mornings when I listen to the radio that I think it's the Meriden Youth. And they have an advertisement on the radio stating that the most misused drug behind marijuana and alcohol is prescription drugs. But I just say that because marijuana is misused, and so is alcohol. I'd also like to state that even though alcohol is another drug, if someone is driving and drinking, we can find out if that person is under the influence. And with marijuana, we cannot. I was up at the polls. I did have a petition for some people to sign about not wanting to have it in town. They can call me if they'd like to sign the petition at 203-915-7522. I did have some people come up to me and say to me, gee, there's nothing wrong with it. I just smoked before I drove here to vote this morning. So, and it was an adult, and it was an older adult. And, I can appreciate the fact that they do this. I also had a talk with a very young policeman stating that many of the younger children in our school smell of marijuana. They have it on their clothes when they're coming to school, and they know the kids are not smoking it, but they are smelling it on the children's clothes. And you can verify that. I don't want to say the name of the police officer, but I'm sure if you call the police department, you can verify that. So again, I just, was a little bit I guess, educated at one, I think it might have been the last public hearing that you had on it, and it was Zoom, and I think I might have been here. I had never heard of a cannabis cafe. And I kind of think that if we let in a little bit, then we open our town up to a lot eventually. It sneaks in and then it grows. And also people wanting to be able to smoke in public, smoke on the green. Even if we don't have the establishments in town, I think something needs to be done. I've heard of now THC being put in alcohol and beverages. So, and I don't know if this is true, so maybe you know if it's true, but I also heard that our state does not, I don't think they restrict or know the amount of THC is, or TCH, whatever it is, I don't even know what it is, but the amount that is in what is being sold in our state. And it's not, it's not regulated, I guess I want to say. I think that's very important. So, that's what I wanted to offer to you, and I'm hoping for the best Wednesday night, but it is a busy time of the year. Thank you for letting me speak.
You're welcome.
Merry Christmas
Merry
and Happy
Christmas.
Hanukkah.
If you have to leave right away?
No,
Wait, and just wait for after the meeting.
Okay,
One
outside?
Quick conversation. Well, no, it's in my office. So,
Oh,
I just want to say
Oh, it's-
publicly, we
no.
still need.
Unrelated to the meeting.
I know, I'm considering doing it myself, and I have some background I could tell you about later.
Okay, because
Yeah.
it just needs, it cannot be a D, it has to be an R, a U, or an I.
No,
so-
yeah, no, I'm considering it, and I've been considering it. I have another issue going on. Is that gonna stay on?
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Okay,
say talk afterwards.
okay.
Anyone else, public forum? Anything, Grant?
no, good.
Good, we're good. I'd like to wish all of you a wonderful, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and whatever holiday you celebrate. Hope you do it with family and friends. Hope you enjoy it. So I know we will be. First time,
I will say
first
one-
time in several years that all three of our kids are going to be
Nice.
under the same roof for Christmas. So it's something that's.
I'll say one public comment on behalf of town services. I was not on the stage with you guys, but I was across the green and I was facing the two old stage and the new stage.
Mhm.
And they were facing me. And then the tree came on, and I mean, I was, on Whitfield Street. And it really looked beautiful. The two stages lit up. You could tell the difference in the lighting on the old one and the new one.
Yeah.
And I could see those kids in green dancing and everything. So it was very nice, even from a distance. So I hope you didn't get too cold out there.
Wasn't that bad?
No, it was sort of.
No, it really wasn't.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, the little things, talking about the stage without beating this to death, but the idea of the lift built into that new
That was
stage
great.
was enormously helpful for some particular people, but just as a general
Yeah.
proposition, giving access to this.
Yeah.
This public space is very nice.
Yes.
Anyway.
If nothing further, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. And a second? All in favor? Aye. Thank you all.